tense quiet tonight in the small logging town of Badger, Newfoundland, in the wake of an outburst of savage fighting between Union men and police. Bren Walsh telephoned this report a short while ago.
The violence which has been seething beneath the surface in central Newfoundland during the past week or so erupted in earnest this afternoon in a free-swinging fight between IWA strikers and the police at Badger, about 20 miles from Grand Falls. There were upwards of 300 IWA loggers in the battle and about 75 RCMP and Newfoundland constabulary officers. The police officers, none of whom was helmeted, used their hard nightsticks. The trouble started when the police cleared an IWA picket line from across the main highway at Badger to permit a bus carrying independent loggers to nearby woods camps to pass through. There were some grim looks and harsh words, but no violence at this stage. Shortly afterwards, however, a car containing another 3 independent loggers was stopped by the pickets, and its windshield reportedly broken by a thrown rock. The pickets then moved to another part of the town where they demonstrated with shouting, and when the same car again tried to pass, a number of sturdy loggers picked it up physically and turned it around on the road. At this point, the police tried to disperse the strikers, and instead of dispersing, the loggers rushed the officers. The police then started swinging their nightsticks, and one observer counted at least a dozen loggers knocked down by the sticks. They later regained consciousness. An RCMP spokesman said the loggers used hockey stick handles, birch logs, bottles, and axes in the fight, as well as their fists. Inspector Stevenson of the RCMP, who was directing the police activities in the area, said later that one police officer was injured. The extent of his injuries is not yet known, but the man is under observation at the Grand Falls Hospital. The inspector also disclosed that 9 loggers have been arrested and are now in jail.
In Newfoundland, tension but no new incidents in the wake of yesterday's pitched battle between striking IWA loggers and policemen. The report by Leo Harvey.
9 striking IWA loggers are now on remand in Grand Falls Prison after a violent outburst involving members of the RCMP and the Newfoundland Constabulary and IWA picketers at Badger last evening. The men were arrested by the police after they had been called to the town to clear the highway leading from Badger to Buckens of some 250 to 300 loggers who were obstructing traffic. The loggers refused to obey the orders of the police, and a skirmish ensued that lasted for some 5 to 10 minutes. In the incident, a young policeman, 25-year-old William Moss of the St. John's Constabulary, was struck a severe blow by a man who is said to have been armed with a piece of pulpwood. The injured constable was immediately rushed to hospital here, where an emergency operation was performed. The man's injuries are described as a badly fractured skull and severe brain damage. A late report from the hospital advises that his condition tonight is grave. One logger involved in the incident is now in Botwood Hospital under observation. His condition is described as not apparently serious. Meanwhile, in the House of Assembly in St. John's this afternoon, Premier Smallwood said that all of Newfoundland is shocked by the news of last night's disturbance at Badger. The Attorney General said today that he may take up the offer from hundreds of men in the Grand Falls area to do voluntary police patrol duty in the troubled area. And the local branch of the Canadian Legion is holding a special meeting tonight.
In Newfoundland, more police arrive at troubled spots as tension continues to plague the logging industry. Doris Farty sent this report from Grand Falls.
A solemn procession of Grand Falls ex-servicemen accompanied the body of a young St. John's policeman to the CNR station at nearby Windsor tonight. The body of 25-year-old Constable William Moss, the first fatality in the bitter woods labor dispute in central Newfoundland, will be brought to St. John's and then to his hometown of Port Blandford. Here in Grand Falls, 9 men will appear in Magistrates' Court tomorrow to answer charges of unlawful assembly arising from the incident at Badger on Tuesday night when police and picketers battled for 15 minutes. One of the men may also be charged with murder as a result of the death of Constable Moss, who was struck in the head by a log during the fighting. The Attorney General says he's waiting to hear the full report of the incident before making any announcement of charges. The veterans of Botwood, a town about 25 miles from here, met tonight to discuss the emergency. Last night, the veterans of Grand Falls pledged their support to help protect life, limb, or property in the emergency. This is Doris Farty reporting from Grand Falls.